Okay. All right. It is Wednesday, November 15th. It is almost Thanksgiving holiday. Halloween just passed. The year is almost gone, believe it or not. Seems like we are having too much fun. Seems like it was yesterday that we were talking about the heat, and now it's cold weather and it's beautiful fall weather in many places. We have a great guest today, but before we get started, let's have our own John Sibley Butler play some music.
When the snow flies and my fire dies, and the morning rising I rise, drinking my coffee, I write about what it's like without you be for the ride. With your map on your lap to help me to see which way to go and how it should be, and the best way to see America. That's a little Richard Harris, Llewellyn. That's in your honor.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm here for instruction.
You are here for instruction.
Well, when in the presence of such erudite gentlemen, what can I do but hope to pick up a few nuggets of information?
Llewellyn, I think you need to raise your volume a little bit. John Butler, how are you, sir?
I am doing fine. I've been working real hard on a number of things in addition to the CMG stuff. There are so many new ideas, Andreas. I have spent last week with entrepreneurs coming to Austin that I never knew in my life, with great ideas and great things to do. So my technology transfer is doing well, and I'm sort of interacting with the three-star general that is over the Army Futures in Austin, and we're good friends. And so it's just a lot going on in the in technology transfer area. It looks like the stock market will continue to be up despite what's happening in the world in terms of the conflict. So we still wake up to what's going on in Ukraine, and it looks like the Israeli conflict has taken over, if you will, the Ukrainian conflict. So it's a lot going on, and of course the holidays are coming. But I think the most important thing that people are talking about in my world is the upcoming presidential election, how Congress cannot get things together, and as you know, that Mike Johnson is well, he's an LSU guy. He's as I say, he's in my network, and he's now over the House, and he's very, 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 very religious. So I think he has a lot to, he's got a lot to learn. But I think that in the long run, he'll do fine. But when you look at the political stuff, and we've always had a tough time in America in lots of issues. But my gosh, when you can connect the pandemic to the Ukrainian war, to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and when you look at AI, and what effect can AI have on the bomb, for example? So these become very, very interesting. And I'm also finishing up my 17th book as I become an emeritus professor. And so I'm working hard. The weather is absolutely fabulous in Austin, something that even people from Maine will be jealous of. And so I'm doing extremely well, and it's good to see you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Appreciate you. Llewellyn King, how are you, sir?
Well, I'm well, thank you. All is okay here in Rhode Island. Bernhard, I have to tell you that there's some rivalry between Austin and the rest of the world. There's people like the distinguished Professor John Sibley Butler believe that the center of the earth and all human experience is in Austin. Some of us doubt that, and the empirical evidence is otherwise. But nothing will shake a man of faith like Professor John Sibley Butler. Actually, Austin, as I'm told, I get this because of an interview I did with a sort of globalist, is like many places that have attracted too much high tech, is suffering a terrible labor shortage for simple people who can fix things, including the high-tech devices when they fail. So that's interesting. The world is in trouble. The world is a troubled place, and particularly the role of the US in the world is very unsteady and not very hopeful. We have a very bad situation where the fact that the Republican Party, and I don't enjoy the same confidence in the new Speaker of the House that John does. I think he's a neophyte. I think he has a bad record. He is a record of bigotry and narrow-mindedness that will be very hard to overcome in a hurry. In fact, it will not be overcome. But the instability in the House of Representatives, the like of which we have never seen before, may assure that his tenure as Speaker is short. The United States has got to take stands on things, particularly to even countenance the idea of not supporting Ukraine is very dangerous. Russia is a difficult customer. If Russia succeeds in Ukraine, it will set its eyes on other parts of the former Soviet Union, particularly the Baltic countries. I've raised this issue before. Fortunately, most of them are in NATO. Even so, they're very nervous. I just came back from Albania, from a meeting of the Association of European Journalists, where there is great alarm about the signals coming out of Washington. And likewise, there is a sense that we may not be balanced in our handling of the situation in the Middle East. You cannot have a situation that's so unstable without the possibility that it will get worse. The other weakness is throughout the West, we have a lack of leadership. Situation, if I might say so, Bernhard, is not so great in Germany with the coalition. France, Macron has no grip on anything. The British Prime Minister is in trouble, almost certainly will lose his job in the next election if he doesn't lose it before then. The golden boy who was going to make everything right has failed totally. He was just handed a major defeat by the High Court on his immigration plan, and things are not very happy in the world. The astounding thing is that the economy is doing better than it normally does. It's also very interesting to see that there has been no dramatic increase in the price of oil, given that we have a fully fledged war in the Middle East. That indicates the overproduction of oil, or the very high production of oil and natural gas. I've convened a conference, so a virtual press briefing, which I do for the United States Energy Association next Tuesday, which will look at the phenomenon of oil and gas. The other bad thing that we've got is a tremendously poor report on the state of the climate and the chances of further degradation, further instability, and yet we seem to be powerfully incapable, which is what I'm examining next week, of getting off oil and gas. There are 1.5 billion or more cars in the world. They love gasoline. They are all still dependent. The move to electric vehicles was pronounced in Europe and somewhat in the United States. For the rest of the world, they're all running traditional ICE, internal combustion engines.
Interesting perspective as always. Thank you. And we have a great guest, Bernhard Koelmel. Bernhard, you're in Germany right now, right?
Yeah, I'm back in Germany at the moment.
That's brilliant, Bernhard. And so it's so good to see you. And for this the sake of the audience, you're an industry guy to turn into academic guy, and give us a little background on the journey, and then tell us a little bit about what you're working on and what's keeping you up at night.
Yeah. On my background, I studied in Germany in Karlsruhe industrial engineering, and during my studies I went for 3 years to Silicon Valley, and I had the pleasure to work for David Packard in his startup venture, which was quite interesting in the early 90s. Then unfortunately my father died. I had to go back to our farm. We had a farm back home, and I had to close it down because I didn't want to continue the farm. Then I started a company in the domain of virtual reality, early 90s, still early 90s. And, we developed the 3D or virtual reality images for maps. So if you use today Google Maps or any other service, these 3D perspectives was developed by our company. We sold the company to a bigger company. I got 3% of the shares. I had to give them back for only $50,000, but the company was sold for more than $600 million to a bigger company, to Porsche actually, and I would have gotten my shares tax-free, the money. So it was a big mistake. This was when I worked in industry. I was on the board of a software company for customer relationship management systems. We did also software for car configuration or for airplane configuration. So if you want to buy an airplane, you have to use my software. Later on, I developed some interesting patents in the domain of location-based services. Again, this was quite too early. In 2002, I developed a system for location-based services, maps and GPS combined. However, the iPhone introduced the GPS into the market only in 2008. So I was 5 years too early, and everybody told me there's no business. So I gave up on industry, went to university, and I'm now quite active at Pforzheim University. This is in the nice Black Forest, and our neighbors are interesting companies like Porsche, Bosch, Mercedes, and we have a lot of hidden champions around us. Do you know the term hidden champion?
Yeah.
It's quite important term in Germany. This is a company which is a world market leader in its domain. However, the company name is not well known to the public because they have a very specific product. And we have a few hundred of these companies around us, but they face tremendous changes, especially due to the transformation from the ICE combustion engine towards the electric car. Because for electric cars, you don't need precision technology. It's just a little bit software, which could be complicated, but you don't need any precision at all. It's rather easy technology. And this helps to put the Chinese companies on the forefront of competition because they can easily achieve economies of scale. And this is a big challenge at the moment. Last year, I was in Texas, visited Texas State University, had the pleasure to teach in the McCoy School of Business. I repeated it during the summertime. And hopefully I come back next year. What is on my mind at the moment? First of all, I had a really pleasant experience over the weekend because I was attending a graduation ceremony in Paris. And Paris is a beautiful city. And we handed out more than 50 DBAs and PhDs to our students. And we had a kind of, the River Seine in Paris. We had a kind of dinner on the Seine, and we drove through the city during night, which was beautiful. So this is on my mind, and I'm still in the mind of this ceremony, which was really nice and good food, nice guests, excellent students.
Absolutely.
There's nothing like putting on the old Northwestern academic robe that hadn't been changed since 1620 and to interact with everybody. But, it's good to have you here on Digital Roundtable because we share a lot of the same sort of background. What has happened in America and other Western societies is that in the last 40 years or so, actually since the 1980s, when the United States put all of the money in tech transfer and created universities for technology, and we get to transfer the technology. Well, that has become global now. And as you know, as I know, as we write our academic papers that hardly nobody ever sees, we talk issues in technology transfer. We look at how cities will be changed, given the globalization of tech transfer. And I'm speaking now specifically of China. And given the fact that the West is really, really being challenged, if you will, how do you think about and where do we stand in America first and in the West in competition on the technology side for creating the future with new companies? Can we compete in the future with the East?
It's a tough question, not so easy to answer, and you can't say absolutely yes or no. I think there are specific domains where we already have lost the turf and we have no chance to get it back. When it comes to manufacturing at a scale, and we will never have the chance to bring it back from China because they have, a statewide defined strategy where they support the companies, do the technology transfer, and the companies are forced to take up the technologies, to overcome this take-up gap, which is, at least in Germany, one of the biggest problems. And so these companies in China are heavily subsidized, have a huge internal market and a big chance to achieve economies of scale and be less expensive than the rest of the world. When it comes to real high tech, I think a lot of these basic technologies are still developed in the US. So this is something good. The quantum computing, for instance, the US is still is at the forefront. I don't see it so much in AI, to be honest. Because as much as I can judge the large language models which are existing in China, and I've tested a few of them, they're at least at par or even better. They have not the great interfaces, for instance, of ChatGPT or OpenAI and the other solutions, but basically the amount of data which they can use and the computation power they have behind, this is excellent. But as I see, especially the collaboration of Taiwan and the US, this is where the high tech is created. And that's one of the, let's say, most important issues that the United States maintain control, or let's say a partnership with Taiwan. Because if China would be able to take over Taiwan, this would be a nightmare for the rest of the world. Besides having, let's say, a economic downturn for 5 to 10 years, because we wouldn't have enough supply of chips and so on. But this combination of US ability to design new approaches and the Taiwanese knowledge to produce it, this is unique in the world. And that's the reason why I don't fear from the high-tech point of view for the position of the US. I'm, let's say, a little bit astonished from the outside if I look at your political situation and about the language which is spoken in this environment. This is, it's astonishing. It's even disgusting sometimes.
Yes, we have become a bit trashy here in our policy.
However, as I see the far right-wing parties in Europe, which emerge and have, let's say, at least 10 to 20% in all countries right now, they copy this approach. And so I fear that in short run we will have the same attitude also here in Europe, and I don't look forward to this.
Well, let me follow up with the economics and then follow up with a question about politics. One of the trends in America that happened that's very interesting to me is when I was a PhD student at Northwestern, at University of Chicago, they were developing something called finance. And finance has really grown as the physicists have got involved with writing the equations and creating a stock market with great predictive models and et cetera. Then we had the 08 crisis, but it's interesting that finance does not produce anything. I mean, there's no production. How do you look at the world? And you know, in the old days, we thought it was England who would be the financial area of the world, but certainly America has really challenged in the funding and finance, given how you know, they said different kinds of items in finance. As a put on your professor hat, management professor hat, and talk about the impact of American finance on the world, and that includes, I think, Israel. I think that includes. I've done a lot of stuff with German professors over the years, as you can see in my book, Global Perspectives of Technology Transfer. I have a great friend in Germany that was doing the tech transfer. But how do you see the growth of finance?
You know, there's several perspectives. One of it is from, let's say, from the business point of view, not the economic point of view, business point of view. I think I can observe that asset-light business models are dominating the world. Platform economy is taking over and dominating the world. The manufacturing domain and especially the car manufacturing domain was withstanding this kind of trend. You know, probably the most impressive change was initiated in Austin, when Dell standardized in the 90s all the parts of the PC and the notebooks. They created the first example of a platform economy.
Right.
And this is now copied to each and every market, and the products tend to become almost commodities. So, and you know, so far the combustion engine based car was too complicated to do it, but an electric car is a rather stupid piece of technology. And so we could easily standardize the parts of cars. And so I expect that in the near future, asset-light business models where the parts of each car are sourced globally based on price and availability will take over. So, and here again, the chance of the US are quite good because you have a big market, you have fast-moving customers, which are interested in taking over and which are quite interested, from my point of view, in all new solutions. You know, Germans are rather hesitant about everything new.
Let me comment on, and then Llewellyn, on the political of the of whether in America. I do agree that we have a cult here, and I am a card-carrying Republican since you know, the Lincoln days, and I never switched because I think that Lincoln was all about business enterprise. You take care of your family, make sure under all conditions, and that happens. But I do think there's a bit of cultism that might be going on in America in terms of my party and other parties. But I think what you have to realize about America is this. Actually, we have three parties, Bernhard. We have the merchants who really run the country, and then we have the Republican Party and the Democratic Party, right? And remember, with all of the programs that the Democrats want to do, somebody has to fund that, and that usually comes out of taxes of the great merchant companies that we have. So I do believe that we have a mix from economic theory point of view of what Schumpeter would call a mixture of a market economies or capitalism with socialism there. And also to believe that as America moves on, that the latter might be gaining a sense of things. And I say that I was a professor in China to mix the two. And what I found interesting was in China, most of the kids were majoring in the sciences, right? And in America, 70% of the kids were in sciences, biology, chemistry, engineering. And in America, everybody wants to major in business, but business doesn't produce anything. It is the engineers that produce the products. It's biology that would produce the products. So when you combine the academic, if you will, with the industry, then I think we need to look in the future and see how we think about how we produce college kids in America. Because what happened is the kids who have not gone to college, right, and the smart ones, they will be utilized in trade schools and they will produce great things for America, as they always have done, by the way. Always have done. All right, thank you.
No, we observe at the moment more or less the same trend. In the past, we had a lot of engineers. You know, German engineering was well known. At the moment, we have an aging society, and we have more than enough business persons and not enough engineers.
Right.
It's a big issue in the long run, and we are not able to replace the, let's say, the baby boomers which now leave the working place, and this might be a tremendous challenge for all of us.
Yeah, because the automobile, that's science. Delta Airlines, that's science. The computer, that's science. And it has nothing to do with, you know, so I think that when Americans and the rest of the West understand that science will trump business all the time, it is very, very basics, because the companies in the biology would come because of science and not management, accounting, and finance.
What is quite interesting when I compare German universities, you know, I admire your university system. It's great. It's interesting. It's quite expensive, but it's excellent. The results are excellent. However, what I see and I like better in Germany is that we are much more connected with industry. Yeah. You know, we force our students. It's mandatory that they have at least one semester where they have an internship. And I would say 98 of all students get out of this internship with a job, and all our we force the students to make a thesis at the end, both at bachelor's and master's level, and again 90%, 95% of all these theses are executed together with the industry. So we have a really, really close collaboration. And this is what we call technology transfer via heads. Yeah, this is from our point of view, the most successful and best technology transfer approach you can manage. And here what I see, at least, or what I have seen at least in the US, the collaboration is not so close, or it's dominated sometimes by big money. And, you know, in our region, we also support all these small and little companies and send out the students working there. And so in the long run, they might become also successful.
Well, our students are trying to hate business. We got to get over that too. So thank you.
Absolutely. Llewellyn, go ahead.
I did so enjoy what you want to say, but first I'd like to say I'm so glad to meet somebody from Alsace. Which has always interested me, the way it has been German, French, German. And also I like the wines of Alsace very much. And yes, indeed. And I grew up in the British Empire, or what was left of it. And of course, we had never heard of German Shepherd dogs. They were called Alsatian dogs. And I thought Alsatians was the name, but I suspect it was British propaganda not wishing to say German Shepherd during the Second World War. But that's a guess on my part. You make a very valuable point about electric cars will not require the precision engineering that ICE cars do. And I want to tell you that I just bought a German car, a Volkswagen Tiguan, and what a beautiful piece of engineering it is. I think it was mostly made in Mexico, but clearly the hand of German engineering is very apparent and very exciting in a way. A beautifully made thing is an exciting thing. I've always tried to explain that about why people like guns. It's often the craftsmanship and the just the fundamental beauty of them, even though that is not their purpose. I think that's a very important point, that there will be a global leveling in manufacturing of many things. And you clearly have a superb grip on many things, but you didn't mention very much artificial intelligence, which from where I sit seems to be the great unknown. I am of the feeling myself that there are two great changes coming ahead. One is climate change, and the other is artificial intelligence. Interestingly, artificial intelligence looks as though it will be a much better predictor of uneven weather than traditional weather broadcasting. One going, artificial intelligence, to the history of the weather, and the other relying on contemporary reports. Very interesting, the two different approaches and the two different results. AI is a better weather predictor, everybody tells me, and I'm inclined to believe it.
You know, I'm quite active in the domain of AI. I'm teaching AI, and for one issue, I created a class which is called AI for Decision Makers, because at the moment AI projects are mostly coordinated by nerds, and this must be taken back to business persons which are able to take meaningful decisions. And we even created a model which we call AI Sweet Spot, where we take into account the desirability, the feasibility, and the viability. And based on this, we are able to identify a good portfolio which is suitable and interesting for companies. When it comes to knowledge in our region on AI, we are not too bad. We are not good on this domain of generative AI. But this it's a kind of tradition. We are not good in the basics of the internet, of the World Wide Web. However, Germany, and along with Germany, Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, and even China have a good chance to establish themselves as leader for AI in the domain of M2M, machine-to-machine, or IoT-based data generation. You know, we have in Germany, we still produce a lot of products, and the companies start now to connect these products with intelligent sensors and communication systems. And based on these connection, a lot of data is generated. In reality, it's 5 times more data which is generated out of this M2M domain compared to the internet or the World Wide Web. So from my point of view, it's rather stupid, or it would be stupid of German companies to copy the US approach or the Chinese approach to develop own LLMs, large language models. But we should rather concentrate on machine learning in this M2M domain. So at the moment, I see a kind of fight. Yeah, but there are huge opportunities, you know, to create and design better products, to analyze how the products are used, to analyze if there are any issues, and come up with predictive maintenance, or have products running all the time, yeah, without have a kind of sustainability with in a kind of product service system approach. So I don't completely agree that we are not up to the standard. We are following in another approach from my point of view.
That's very interesting to me. In my reporting, I find two schools, or two often within the same organization, or the same person has two views. I'm thinking particularly of a very brilliant scientist I know who is writing a book on AI, and basically he encompasses both the hope and the fear. The fear, which is social, is that there'll be a huge subtraction of jobs, mostly simple jobs, but also white-collar jobs. The other side of this is that there will be a tremendous growth in particularly medical research, but research of every kind, that a great leap forward for humanity is at hand, that we're going to be able to live effortlessly to live to 120 because so much disease will be conquered, that the great leap forward is worth the price we'll pay. The limitation, I'm told, and it seems reasonable to me, I just wrote a preface for a book on this subject, is that AI is exponential. Most of our thinking is linear, and those two are not compatible. Thank you.
So, Bernhard, real quick, you can elaborate on all those comments, but I want to go deeper into, tell us some of the projects you're working on, because I think that it's really fascinating to see or hear and explore, the work that we're doing here at CMG and Texas State and all that, how this platform concept and this, I call it sort of platform mass customization. You can go there very deep, but you're leveraging now sort of a world economic scale of anything, software, sensors, communications, so on and so on. And it seems like the old traditional foothold that Europe or Germany on quality, or China or Japan or the US or what have you had, seems to be giving way to the ability for anywhere in the world to stand up an enterprise, not exactly on all industries, but when you look at many industries, the world has gotten flat, and the ability to scale can be from anywhere. And because of communications, you can be anywhere to run this company. So you can start a new city anywhere, or you can live on the beach, and you can run a multi-billion-dollar company from the beach. And how do you see all these forces coming together and basically building, 10, 15 years ago, we didn't think about Twitter or TikTok or Instagram. And now all these things are happening. New economies are building, right? The gig economy. Where do you think that things are heading with the innovation flying and making the world flat?
No, I've several big projects which I'm coordinating. One of it is in this domain of climate change. There, we try to build up solutions in the domain of digital product passport in order to keep products running and keep them going and reduce the negative impact. But my most important project is on the transformation of the automotive industry, which tends to turn to become a kind of platform economy. And I'd like to give you an example. Would you believe that Saudi Arabia will be among the biggest car producers within 5 years from now on?
No.
But it's going to happen, yeah. The Saudi Arabian state fund, they have several $1 billion. Yeah,
they have all the money in the world. They have all the money in the world.
They have a lot of money, yeah, and they spend every year several $1 billion in order to establish a car industry. And first of all, Hyundai started to build a factory in Saudi Arabia, which should produce 500,000 cars per year.
Wow.
Second, Lucid Motors has its biggest factory in Saudi Arabia, and with 200,000 cars per year. And this is right from the beginning the biggest competitor for Mercedes, yeah, because these Lucid Motor cars, yeah, they are high-end luxury cars and trying to be the S-Class Mercedes. Hopefully, they are not successful, at least from my point of view. And my expectation, the biggest car manufacturer will be within 10 years Foxconn.
Yeah, I believe that.
Yeah, Foxconn, which produces the iPhone, yeah, they have established this platform economy, and they have a kind of collaborative network which is called MIH EV Open. there they have collected almost 3,000 companies which participate on this global platform in order to scale and standardize all the products. And this company builds together in Saudi Arabia a factory which should be able to produce 1 million cars per year. This company is called CEER, C-E-E-R, and it plans to start producing cars in 2025, early 2025. Yeah, it's just 1 year from now on. And so the factory or the technology is completely based on the Foxconn open standard model. Unfortunately, BMW, another big German brand, is helping them to get the factory going. So a lot of BMW guys are flying over to Saudi Arabia every month in order to set up the factory. And, you know, we talk about Germany as a big car manufacturer. We have around 3.6 million cars per year which are produced in Germany only. And Saudi Arabia plans to produce 2 million in 5 years' time. So, you know, and if we look 5 years after that, they could be at the same level as a car manufacturing nation like Germany. So, I expect.
Let me ask you this on the open innovation model that you're speaking of on the platform where information flows. And let's tie that in Llewellyn's concern with AI. So at the end of the day, you have, I think, two things with AI. It's certainly that AI could produce factories themselves, right, and produce the cars themselves with robotics and all those kinds of things. But when it comes to business decisions, with all of the data that's there, what we know is that you have to have a theory of when you look at all of your data. So I've said that I think that AI is just simple statistics, is predictive, it's regression if it's predictive. And if you ask the car, hey, is that a horse or is that another car? Well, then that's loaded, you know, it's loaded. So how do you see my brain and our brains interacting with all of this data and also platform companies? So right now, last year, I guess everybody who interviewed for a job at the University of Texas looked at in management was studying platform enterprises. Where does the decision making come in with all of the data? Because we still have to have a theory of why things sell, a theory of why things do not sell, a predictive model that allows us to predict our theory or reject our theory. How do you see the combination of the brain, if you will, interacting with sitting around a table and I've got all of this data, and we would say, well, you know, my theory is that marketing is fine, but, you know, AI tells us it doesn't mean anything because it's all platform now. So I can tell you right now that Austin, Texas, and Houston, Texas, and Dallas, Texas, we all sit on platforms. We could interact as one big, large city on the business side. You got any answers for that, Mr. Drucker?
So, you know, first of all, I don't fear AI because AI will never be disruptive. It will be exponential. Here I agree, but it will not be disruptive because AI learns on past data and will be only able to recombine existing knowledge. And disruptive decisions, really creative decisions and management decisions will always be taken by human beings. Here I'm really completely sure, and I've seen so many research projects where they planned that cloud-based systems should negotiate with each other and try to establish the best price and so on. And ever humans take over and do the final negotiation. So from my point of view, I don't really fear that AI will completely take over. However, our decisions will be completely based on AI support. Here I agree.
Yes, when I was in Japan at Nagoya, where they were trying to replace the Mercedes, Lexus was. I was a professor at Aoyamagama for 14 summers in Japan. And they would have all of the information that they need from the computer, and they would turn to the oldest person in the room and say, what do you think we should do? And I found that very, very interesting. So I don't know if I agree with you totally that AI will not be disruptive. I think it will be disruptive in certain places when it comes to doing things that humans can be. It's going to be disruptive of jobs. It would be not disruptive of the thinking of technology in the future. But I think just as sure as the garbage truck, which picks up the garbage by itself, was disruptive in terms of jobs. Whether it's giving the news journalists, rather writing the news journalists. And I mean, how could a journalist in 1 second pull everything together and have the answer to it? Now, on the other hand, the journalists could also be dependent on AI, but we don't want journalists like airplane, like pilots. What do you call a pilot now? Well, you call them a passenger, right? We don't want our journalists not to use their brains, but to just use past information to put things together. So I'm not sure that your thesis on AI being not disruptive would fly in my management class.
You know, now we have different definitions of disruptive and transformative. What you said as disruptive, I call transformative, and disruptive from my point of view is taking a decision which is completely new. And we could argue or we could discuss what is a good definition of disruption.
I like Schumpeter too. I understand it's got to be new. I like the Austrian. He was the best economist ever. The Austrian is the best economist ever.
And here I agree, jobs will change. Yeah, but again, you know, I remember, and this was my first internship I did at Siemens. Yeah, and Hammer Champy business process redesign. Yeah, you remember Hammer Champy in the 1980s? They came to Germany, and we did this great change and automation of starting, especially in the car industry. Yeah, and what was the outcome? More jobs. So because if
Come closer, Llewellyn. Can't hear you.
You're talking about two slightly different things there. The creation of jobs by automation was an industrialized economy. We're now in an information economy, which is an entirely different game. We're in a service economy, and the vulnerability of jobs is much greater. The possibility of the creation of new jobs is at this point unclear, if there are any, and there is disruption. Journalism is already disrupted by AI. Law is becoming disrupted. In fact, anything to do with words is in trouble. The veracity of pieces of paper is in doubt. The provenance of what you believe to be facts is in trouble. And that's disruptive, if you ask me, Professor.
Yeah, I can agree. You know, I had this for the term transformative in my definition. I agree to all of your descriptions and what you told me. And I said disruptive is when a person is taking a new decision which was not possible before. But again, we could discuss what is the real definition.
That's a bit semantic. Let me ask you this. The US is struggling with whether it and how it should regulate artificial intelligence, AI. Europe is a little bit ahead of that, but not much. How do you feel about regulation? Most of the AI companies say they want it, but they don't say how it should be done, and they don't agree on how it should be done.
This is you know, today I had a long discussion with one of my colleagues and one of our local heroes on AI about the AI legislation which is going on in Europe. And you know, we have already this GDPR, so the privacy laws. And again, from the European point of view, if we would follow this M2M approach, it's no big deal because machines don't have an ethical right. And if we are able to use the data from the machines, we could easily train AI systems in order to be much better. So it's basically, from my point of view, and my colleagues don't agree, yeah, but this is my point of view. This is a US problem and a Chinese problem, because you have these huge amounts of unstructured data which you're able to crawl or to get out of the internet. And these, for instance, OpenAI used the access to all these books which are stored in the internet. And this is an issue. Who is the owner? What is happening with the IPR? How can we deal with these, doubling amount of data, which we have now every 3 or 4 months, doubling the amount of data every 3 to 4 months. It was in the past, it was 2 years. And now we have 3 to 4 months, doubling amount of data, which is created by AI. Yeah. And so if we would have, let's say, a bad political party, they could create their own history. Yeah, and I won't even think about the negative potential impact this could have on a democracy. Yeah. And you have seen in the US quite some political upheaval and negative discussion, and this could be fueled by let's say fake news, which is produced in a big amount of with a big amount of support of these systems. Yeah, I agree completely that there are some issues. In reality, I think that the big players, they talk or they tell us that they want to have regulation. In reality, they try to avoid it.
Thank you.
Very
Interesting.
interesting. Very interesting. It's I think from an economic point of view and the vision of the future, Germany and America is not that much different in terms of going forward with different kind of economies. I think the big change for the West would be what's happening in the East, what's happening in Taiwan, and what's happening in the Middle East with the Saudis. And that's what I think. Because remember that if you look at how technology is migrated from Germany did our space program in Europe, and England did a lot of stuff early. When America became a country, we tried to steal everything we could from England, which we did successful, I might add.
So I have a couple of questions real quick. I'm looking at the time, Bernhard, and I'm curious about something. You were talking about the platform impacting the auto industry. It's not really about EVs. It's about the platform impacting the industry. EV just happens to be a way of creating that motor train to move people around. Let's talk about real quick about your thoughts on, do you think that there will be 10,000 car companies? Do you think that the car companies will be co-located to the demand? Do you think that really, Saudi Arabia or Foxconn really can monopolize that in a centralized fashion, or are we going to distribute it? Will 3D printing impact that? Can I 3D print my car in my garage and buy whatever I want? Where is this heading?
Different issues. First of all, I think, and we already observed it, that the number of car companies will be 10 times higher in 10 years than today. And then it will go down back. Then a concentration process will start. And we are not sure if the incumbents will survive or newcomers will survive. So it's an open race now. What will definitely emerge, if we look forward, we will have in 2030, around 70% of the world population will live in megacities. We can be sure that in megacities, mobility as a service will dominate. We can be sure that this will be responsible for more than 50% of the traffic. This means that a completely new type of car will emerge, which will be a module based on modules, which will be it will be easy to replace parts, which will be easy to maintain, which will run not for a long distance, but in a city environment. So a completely new type of car or automotive economy will emerge. And with respect to this 3D printing, we did a research project together with Mercedes. And so first of all, not everything will be printed. Why? Because there will be security concerns, and these security concerns can, let's say the most important security concerns need to be tested in the factory, full stop, and this will never change. However, the personalization, the luxury parts, the communication parts, the entertainment parts, they could be printed. And they will be printed. And we did a research project together with Mercedes where we tested it. And they did not deploy it because they feared that the copycat approach will take away their business. Yeah, black market, which will take over and copy, let's say, this printing of luxury items. And here is the big amount of money. Yeah. Now we are talking and again, having a project together with them where we try to integrate DLT, blockchain-like technologies into each and every part of the car. So it has to inform back the coordination unit of the car that it's an original part. And based on this, I'm quite sure that 3D printing will be relevant for a big amount of value-added, let's say, services. However, the basic car, the core functionality with the security features, you know, brake system, airbag, and so on, this will come out of a somehow certified factory.
Right. And last question on that. Do you see a day, or is there any studies or anybody working on the notion? There are 2 counties in California who have basically adopted a new way of solving homelessness by forcing homeless to buy a car to live in the car. And with autonomy, that car doesn't need to be designed the same way. It could be actually a rolling bed. Do you see housing and cars colliding, and people living in the smaller units that move around and go wherever you want, and you no longer need a house, you just live in a car?
I don't think that the housing will go down because we'd like to have our home and meet with our family, and we don't want to meet in a car. However, I can imagine that motels will have less business because you can go into your car and tell the car, you know, drop me off at my company visit tomorrow morning at 8, and even a shower or a good bed will be part of this car. And you know, other companies will suffer because if we have autonomous cars, we will have 98% less traffic accidents. So the insurance companies will go bankrupt. Even the car dealers or the body shops will go bankrupt. The motors will suffer. Even the hospitals need to consider and rediscuss their business model. You know, by now, the persons which are injured during an accident, they pay much more for a factory in comparison to a person which has cancer. Yeah, and so the hospitals cross subsidize their business from the accidents which happen in traffic accidents. And if these accidents will not happen anymore in the future, even the hospitals would need or will need new business models. So if these kind of mobility ecosystem is changing, and I'm quite sure it will change, yeah, we have to think about a lot of tiny pieces which will change in the long run.
Well, last one, because I got to get your thoughts on this. What about the vertical economy, flying cars?
Very sure that it will come. It will also be based on a platform economy because the parts are more or less similar to a normal car. You know, next in my vicinity, we have one of the dominating companies in this domain, and they plan to run the first service next year in Paris, flying all athletes from their athlete homes to the
Olympics.
To the Olympics.
Stadium, yeah.
To the stadium and run it every day. So all the
Wow.
athletes should not use street-bound cars, but they should use these e-wattles. So, and I'm looking forward to it. And next year will be, let's say, a big point or a big milestone where it's shown to the public.
Yeah, fascinating. Gentlemen, final thoughts.
Well, I think it is very, very interesting as we look into the future. It's always good to interview someone from Germany who's in academia and has seen also industry. And the future we know is different, but we also know it will be good.
Hopefully.
I'd like to say that I think your ideas are enormously stimulating, and I've enjoyed every word you said. And do please keep the Gewürztraminer coming.
Thank you.
Bernhard, thank you very much. It's always a pleasure, and we'll talk again. Keep in touch, and looking forward to your updates from time to time.
I plan to come to Austin in March. You know, I'd like to be present at the South by Southwest conference and see the new presentation of the Future Today report. You know, one of the big influencing reports for me.
I will see you then. I will see you then.
Yeah.
Johnny, take us away.
Yeah. Wow. I wish the buck was still silver. It was back when the country was strong. Back before Nixon, before the Vietnam War came along. Before the Beatles and yesterday, when a man was still work and still could. The best of the free life behind us now, and all the good times really over for good. I wish Coke was still cola, and a joint was a bad place to be. That was back before Nixon lied to us all on TV. Before microwave, still cold and still wood. The best of the good life behind us now, and all the good times really over for good. And are we rolling down the hill like a snowball headed for hell? No kind for the flag of the Liberty Bell. I wish a Ford and a Chevy still last 10 years like it should. Cause a good life, is still ahead, and the good times ain't over for good. Woo! That's food for thought, gentlemen. That's food for thought.
Well done, well done, well done. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate
you call me
very
when
much.
you come to Austin. Okay.
Super
Thank
program.
You, Thank you, all of you.
Take care.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Bernhard.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.